Welcome to Teaching Truth. My name is Glenn Cartwright. Around the Tabernacle in 50 days. Well, we're into the final week of our 10-week journey, our 50-day journey around the Tabernacle. And I hope that our journey has been more than a history lesson. Our journey has been more than understanding the theology, the furnishings, the construction of the Tabernacle. I hope you found it to be spiritually challenging, as well as helping you to understand the relationship between the Tabernacle and Jesus Christ today. And as we come to our final week in looking at the Tabernacle, we want this week to consider the relevance of the Tabernacle in the 21st century. We can be tempted to think of the Tabernacle merely as a historical construction that was relevant for the Israelites then, but actually there are, I believe, some pointers that we can take from the Tabernacle that are hugely relevant to us here in the 21st century. And today I want to invite you simply to think about the plan that we can be part of. Let me read once again from Exodus chapter 25 about the construction of the tabernacle. Verse 9 says this: "Make this tabernacle and all its furnishings exactly like the pattern I will show you." Down to the very last piece of wood in the tabernacle, down to the very last piece of curtain, down to the very last element that was placed into the tabernacle. Everything was there for a purpose. There was nothing there that God did not want in the tabernacle. There was a place for everything, and everything was in its place. There was a very divine plan to the tabernacle, the dwelling place of God for the Israelite people. And that reminds me and reminds us, as we consider our place within the local church, the tabernacle as it were, in the 21st century, God's dwelling place, that each one of us, however we may be gifted, wherever God may have placed us geographically, we are there because He wants us there. We may be like that hem in the curtain, that stitch in the veil. We may be like that piece of wood in the outer courtyard. We may be part of the bronze altar or laver, as it were. We may be that joint, that screw that's holding part of the construction together. Whatever part we might fulfill, here is the relevance and challenge for us in the 21st century, that we are part of God's plan for building His tabernacle, His dwelling place, His church in the 21st century. God has gifted you and God has gifted me with gifts and abilities and skills and talents that enable us to serve God's purpose in this, our generation. A plan to be a part of. And God invites you to be part of His plan for building His tabernacle and His church. Let me tell you a story. Two friends were standing at the bottom of a garden one day, and one remarked to the other that he liked the look of an old putter that had been lying in his friend's garden shed for many years. And his friend remarked that it had been gathering cobwebs for a long, long time, and it was of no use to him whatsoever, and if his friend wanted to take it away and do anything with it, he was welcome to do so. And so his friend took it away, blew off the cobwebs, dusted it, and took it home. Years later, a ball was stroked on the 18th green at St Andrews. And with that shot, Bobby Jones went on to win the 62nd Open Golf Championship. And yep, you've guessed it. He did it with that old putter that had been lying for years, gathering cobwebs in his friend's garden shed. But in the hands of the master, there was nothing that old putter could not do. Don't imagine that you can't be used as part of God's plan for the course, as it were, of his church. Don't imagine that you're useless or insignificant, haven't a purpose or nothing to offer. Because in the hands of an altogether different master, you can do great things for God. You can be part of that great plan. A number of years ago, I came across a little verse tucked away in the book of Acts, Acts chapter 13, verse 36. It's a verse that has impressed itself upon my heart and upon my mind ever since reading it. It says this: David served God's purpose in his generation. In other words, David dedicated his life to fulfilling God's plan and God's purpose for him here on earth. I don't know about you, but I've had cause to think just recently about what epitaph I would perhaps like chiselled on my tombstone, and I don't intend to pop my clogs yet or for a very long time, God willing. But my desire, in one sense, in a very humble sense, would be that inscribed on my tombstone would be these words, that Glenn served God's purpose in his generation. Because I believe that's the ultimate definition of a life well lived that God has planned for an individual. We fulfill the eternal and timeless plan of God in a contemporary and timely way in our generation. The tabernacle of old fulfilled a purpose and a plan for the generation and the generations that were Moses and the Israelites. So what I want to invite you to consider today, as I can challenge again myself, is this: will you be one who will open yourself to God's plan and to God's purpose for your life? Because God has a wonderful plan and a wonderful purpose for your life. Don't miss out on God's plan. Don't miss out on the fact that you can be a part of God's wonderful plan for his church. God has gifted us with one life to live. What we do with our lives is our gift to God. Let's be part of his plan, a plan to be part of, a plan to discover, and a plan to fulfill in the here and now for his glory.